Hey, wow. Man, I'm still working on trying to be a better organist. Hey, welcome to Tech Talk Live. This is Blake here with a little bit different setup here. I actually have taken everything that was over on this side of my room and moved it over to this side of my room so I could set up this 2-keyboard setup here to show a little bit about MIDI connectivity in the YC61. Even though I have my montage white under here and the screen right there that I managed to bring in. Now, I don't have the really cool close-up that Hoppe has, Hans-Peter Hinkel. If you saw his earlier one, he has a cooler camera than I have, and so he can really zoom in on this screen, which I can't really do. It kind of looks grainy, but I'll explain to you what's going on here and just talk about just different ways that you connect with YC61 and an external device like this Montage White 7 that I have down here. I'll be playing a little bit from here, and I did just to show you sort of 2 manual setup, which is what you just saw me do. I have the lower manual here. I'll show you how to set that up in a second. But I'll show you some other kind of cool configurations that you can do with things like this, show you basics on how to set them up. I won't get super deep on this because, you know, MIDI connectivity and master keyboard settings, you can do some amazing things. In fact, this reminds me of something. Later on this week, we will have on our SoundCloud, which I'll call out later on in the show, but I'll call out right now that we have a Behind the Synth on SoundCloud. We've been kind of covering some artists lately, and we just did one with Dan Rouse, who is the currently the musical director and keyboardist and production manager and person that makes everything happen for the Village people right now, actually. But Dan is really, one of the things why I'm bringing this up is because Dan talks about his keyboard setup where he uses multiple Modi X and Montage, but, you know, the thing about master keyboard control and setting things up and doing things that's so cool is that there's so many options on how to use it. And Dan brings up some of the things that he does with it, using Montage. Now I'm going to cover, YC today, but it's really interesting how these things can work together and some of the cool things that you can do. Now YC has some very specific ways that it connects to keyboards. It works as a master keyboard controller, but it also has a cool way on how it deals with secondary keyboards. So in this case, the secondary keyboard is the Montage down here. And one of them is just the basic one that you'd expect is a 2-manual organ setup. Now, inside my screen right here, I have my sound here. It's called Blake H1. And I see the upper and the lower manuals in here because I have them both set up. But I have the upper manual, it just says H1 high, but right next to the lower manual, it has the abbreviation EX, which means external control. So what you can do is when you touch settings in here, you can go ahead and touch settings, and then down one notch from sound is external keyboard. Now, by the way, if you didn't know this, on the buttons here, you can get right to them using the live set buttons when you touch settings. So I know that position 2 is external keyboard, so I'll touch 2, boom, and it brings me into external keyboard. So you can either use the knob here with the enter button to get to that, or you can use the buttons right here. And it also has these 3, see where it says there's 3 selections inside the screen here. There's also 3 lamps illuminated here that generally are live set lamps. Well, now their ability to get to stuff. So I can touch on 1. And right now I have this set up for 2 manual low. So this is saying that the external keyboard is going to control the lower manual. And that's exactly what it's doing. Now what if I put it to 2 manual high? Now what it's going to do, 2 manual up rather is what it's called, upper manual. Now what's going to happen is you will hear, that's the upper manual. You can hear the percussion in there. You're going to go to my upper manual, see I have percussion on. It's the standard 3-down jazz, kind of a jazz thing. Jimmy Smith, Joey DeFrancesco, Larry Young, all the great organists I can think of. That's a very common setting, the 3 drawbars right there. But now that upper manual is being controlled down here by the Montage. Again, I had it set to this right here, which is low. So now I can set up lower, upper, just like that. So it's kind of a cool way to set up if you have the need to do this, to set up a 2-manual organ setup. So that's one way that it can connect. Now I have some things set up here that are pretty cool that I have just right here as live sets. Now you notice that on the next one I want to show you is I'm no longer in the organ section I'm controlling over here. So I've moved from 2 manual to a new live set. But look what happened here. Now it doesn't change anything because I have my Montage down here set up what I just call keyboard control only, meaning that this is just set up only as a controller. There's no sounds really being generated in this particular configuration from Montage because I kind of want to focus on the MIDI connection here between YC and how it controls. So I have this set up in 2 ways, and I'll talk about master keyboard control as well. But I have this now set up where it's controlling the 2 key sections in the YC61 is up here. So I have an analog pad here, pretty light analog pad. Bring me up a little bit. So just a very light pad here, but the top, keys A, is set for monophonic, and it says external classic mini. So now what I'm doing is, I'll go into settings here once again, and I see external keyboard here. Now we'll go to key A, and I'll touch on that. So that's set to external only. That means that it's not going to trigger from the keyboard here itself. I've told it now that keys A is only going to respond to external MIDI control. So before I move on, let's just see what I do have for selections in here. We can go external plus internal. So now keys A is both being controlled by external and internal, so it can be simultaneous. External only means, now you don't hear the A key, you only hear the B key. That's set up to be controlled from the YC. But external only, so external's down here, keys A is the monophonic lead sound. Again, all the sounds are coming from the YC61, not from Montage at all. So it's pretty cool how you can kind of configure that just like that. Or I can just turn it off. Now nothing plays here, but it will still trigger from the YC here. But now external control, nothing happens here. So I could maybe configure the external control to run the upper manual of the organ or both manuals of the organ or whatever. So you have some cool flexibility with this setup that's awesome. You can control. In fact, let's move on. Let's go to another one here. Let's go back to the pad of Crom in a second. Now you notice that things are changing down low here. Did you see it when I selected pad of Crom? I want to come back to this one because this one's pretty cool how I have this one set up, because now I want to use them in conjunction. But let's say I have a external keyboard here, and what I would like to do is play the cool C7 sound that is in the YC61 from an external keyboard, but I'd still like to have some control over stuff on top, like maybe the 73 RD. So I have the electric piano sound coming from the YC61 in this configuration, but what about the C7? Well, external is what it's set for C7, so I have it under external control. And that is the C7 coming from the YC61. Again, everything you've heard so far is only coming from this board up here, the YC61. Pretty cool. Really flexible how this keyboard is set up to work as both a standalone keyboard, but also in a configuration for a dual manual setup or for something where you want to play the piano sound like I have here, but I still want to have a cool electric piano on top. Let's say I just want to hit right here and turn this guy on. So what I did here was I actually have the organ now being controlled by the lower keyboard as well. And I also have the sustain pedal on here. Again, everything's still coming from the YC61, but I have it controlled down here where I have. So both are being controlled, the F1 organ here, by the YC61. So this would be F1 organ with the electric piano coming from the YC61. But since I have both external and internal, let's take a look at that. So I touch settings. I'll go over here to external keyboard. Again, you can use the buttons on the front. Organ. Right now it's external plus internal. Well, what if I wanted to, well, really what I'd like to have is the F1 organ and the piano down here and just the electric piano up top. And that is what I have now. So that's pretty cool. There's different things that you can do, different ways that you can set stuff up. Now you notice now I have external in the screen here, which you can't really see because you can't really zoom in very easily here, but external and external, boom, that's what's coming from down here for organ and C7 piano. Configuration, different, but still cool. Now, if I like this, I just save it into the live set, right? So I'll go over here and just hit store, boom. So now that's my configuration here, and it recalls per live set. That is one of the cool things about this instrument that I think is really fascinating. In fact, let's go back to my little pad of Crom here. Hey, what happened there? Do you see this? Do you see what happened on the montage? Well, I just changed from here to this ambient trailer sound. Let me show you how to set that up. That's a pretty cool way to use it. Now in this configuration, before I do anything, now you will be hearing some of the sounds, just the ambient trailer sound, coming from the montage. An ambient trailer is one of the sounds from the Bosendorfer collection. It's one of my favorite performances that use that content. In fact, I'll turn this all the way down so you can hear what I'm talking about. So this is just, so you're not hearing anything here, right? Just the Bosendorfer ambient trailer sound that does this cool thing. You've heard me talk about this if you've watched me do this before, how this works. Cool pad sound. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to use these in conjunction. Now, you saw, let me go back to this, and now I set this up at master keyboard control. I'm not going to go super deep on master keyboard control, but it's different than what I've been showing you, which is when you set up just 2 keyboards. There's a simple setup in here, or if you want to go for a 4-zone fully master controller, the YC61 can do that as well. So what I did with this was I dropped into what's called master keyboard control, and in this one, you have to turn this on, and I'll cover this in a slide real quick, but I have it turned on where the mode switch is on, and then I wanted to see my advanced zone settings so I can set it up to drop into zone 1, and transmit switch here is 0, or is on rather. Transmit channel is 1, octave switch and all. Now if I move down here, you see bank LSP, MSB, and program change. Now I've entered that information in here. Now where did I get that information? I got it from the montage below. If you didn't know this, if you touch right on the montage name and you go to property, it gives you that information right in the screen. That's pretty cool. So I enter those values in here, and now you'll see, let me go back one level here to the analog pad. See, I did the same thing with the analog pad where it's controlling montage. So it just gave it the program change to bring it to my keyboard control only sound. Now I'm going to go back here to the pad of Crom, right here, number 3, boom, program change, sent. Cool. So not only is it a master keyboard controller, but it also has this cool, what I would like to say as ease of use setup to configure it for 2 manuals, or to configure an external keyboard playing one of the key sections or the organ section or whatever. You have both of those capabilities. One where you want a little bit more advanced keyboard control, one of them where you want a simple setup to set up 2 keyboards to use them together. So, what did I do here? In this configuration, I have so it's actually playing montage here, but if you listen, I'll turn the montage all the way down. I have keys A and keys B only coming from the YC61, right? But I also wanted it to control down here so that I can play the ambient trailer pad here, right? Coming from, so I have the pads and the ambient trailer, right? But I have an extra special kind of thing coming the other direction. With this guy, do you hear the flangey sound? Let me turn down the montage so you can hear what that is. So that's the F1 organ, the FM generated kind of sine wave organ, and I have some, the 8th drawbar down, so I have kind of a high sound in here. And what I've done in here is I'm pointing it over here to the flanger for the effect. So F2, right, effect to organ. And then I also have the rotary speaker going to the organ as well. But it kind of adds a different, I have a similar sound between the two, right? Let me turn up my ambient trailer again. Just a different configuration where, in this case, piano is being played from both on the montage, the ambient trailer Bosendorfer sound. Both keyboards play that sound. But up here, keys A and keys B are only coming from the YC61 that now are layered with ambient trailer. Now, if I go down here, it's not playing the nowhere or analog pad, but it is playing the F1 organ. So you configure those in different ways, where external only is playing it, or I turn it off completely and the only thing that you see here, in fact, check it out, I'll show you where it's at. I go in here to external keyboard, keys A. External keyboard is set on keys A to off. So it's not playing from the external keyboard in that configuration. B is the same way, off. But if I go to organ, external only. It's only coming from down here. So different ways to configure it using this external keyboard setup that is, is right here. I'll do one more here for you. You saw it change here. Again, I have master keyboard control, so it's sending out the patch changes to the montage below. Now, in this configuration, I was thinking, how can I use this with something like a song in here? So I have this song in here that I put together a while ago. Now, anything that has keyboard control down here. Okay, now I'll show you what's going to change here in a second. Right now, this instrument is sending and receiving on channel 1. I should make something clear here that I don't think I made clear yet, but I'm going to make it clear right now. The YC61 only sends and receives on a single MIDI channel. Now, when you're talking about master keyboard control, well, now you can control external devices and have the ability to have up to 4 zones on multiple MIDI channels to external devices. But when it comes to this instrument, it's the sections, all of them they'll all receive on the same channel. So a lot of people are going, well, wait a minute, how can I have independent control over different sections in a live set? Well, you can record just turning things on and off, because all of the controls on the YC61, including the switches, but all of the physical controls, those all send out MIDI controller data or system exclusive. So they can be recorded and recalled in real time, so you can have that benefit when you're playing with a, say, with a DAW, or if you want to control it that way, you can actually set it up so you can control all that stuff. But I think that the idea behind YC61 here is to have a very, very straightforward and easy to set up MIDI configurations on here, because it's a stage keyboard. So it's actually very flexible. So what I wanted to do here is I have part 8 set well, I'll show you exactly what I did here. First off, what I want to do is I'm going to tell this instrument, the YC61, to send and receive only on channel 8. So how do I do that? I'm going to drop into my menu here. I'm going to touch on General. I'm going to go to MIDI Settings. I'm going to go to MIDI Channel. And transmit and receive have been on channel 1. Well, I'm going to set it to channel 8 for both transmit and receive, and you'll see why here in a second, why that's cool. So now, if I select over here, so now I've just selected part 8 here, right? Inside the montage. Now, you're not hearing the montage sound, but I still have a sound there. How am I doing that? Well, here's what I did. So this is a little trip down montage lane real quick. I know that a lot of people are here to see just YC61, but bear with me for a second, because this is kind of a fun setup. And for anybody that has a MODX and a montage, hey, what am I saying? You should get a YC61 for your top keyboard. It's a very cool keyboard to add to this setup. Okay, here's what I did. Utility, in montage, you see the screen right there. You want to make sure that you have Zone Master set on. That means that now I can set this up for a MIDI controller as well, which is pretty cool. Now, I'm going to go back to my performance. I'm going to touch on Edit, okay? So I'm on Edit here, right? I'm going to go to Part 8, go here to Zone Settings, and you see I have the zone switch on. Here's why this is cool. I turned off the internal switch, so the internal sound is not being triggered, but it still knows that, it still is sending and receiving on channel 8 on just that part. And that's just the YC61, because you saw what I did before. I set the YC61 to send and receive on 8. You dig? Pretty cool. So what I want to do here, what can I do with this? What if I were just to go in here, and I have the scene 2 here of my song that I created here a while ago. Let's just make sure I have it in here. So the song has the... So now that's you just heard the montage and the piano here, because I have keyboard control on for that. But when you directly select a part, even if it doesn't have keyboard control, you're playing that part. And because I have this set up for not playing the internal sound, but just the external sound, see, it's on channel 8. Wait a minute. Does this mean that I can drop into record on the sequencer? And okay. So I recorded the YC61 part into the sequencer of the montage. See? So there's interesting ways when you use these MIDI control and MIDI setups to use these instruments together that I really dig. And I mean, I'm just scratching the surface here. But so let's just recap. You have the setups for controlling this instrument from a 2 keyboard, which called external keyboard control, and you have those settings for each of these instruments for external only for the organ, or external plus internal is what it defaults to. External only is what I had it set for that one because I didn't control from up here. 2 manual up, right, where the upper manual is being controlled by the lower keyboard. 2 manual low, which we started with, where the lower keyboard is controlling the lower manual, or just off. So those are the settings for external keyboard. And I should say this too, there's already an article that Tony Escueda wrote that's up on Yamaha Synth that shows that exact setup, and he uses, I think, an MX88 in the examples on that, but it's the same basic thing. So we have that one thing here. Now I'm going to move on and show you very quickly this slide here. This shows the master keyboard settings that you can set up. Now, for this one, that's what you see me using here is the master keyboard settings, where you have 4 zones, and you have basically straight up with the advanced zone switched off. It takes away the visibility of stuff, but it makes it easy to set up a transmit channel, what octave it's playing in. And again, we're controlling external sounds from YC61 with this configuration. Transpose settings, note limit high and note limit low. So you can zone things out. You can make it so that only, an octave of the lower keyboard will play some sounds on one of the zones that could be for samples or whatever. And then maybe from C to C, 2 octaves up, that's maybe playing a brass sound or something on zone 2 for external devices, or VSTs, virtual instruments, whatever. Okay, so there's also another switch in there that's called advanced mode switch, that when you turn that on, that gives you the ability to really set it up. Now, I turned on advanced mode switch, so it would send the program change from the YC61 to montage and call up the performance. So you can send bank MSB and LSB rather, program change, volume settings, pan, and then you can say what's going to transmit. Either, all these things you can either turn off or on what's being transmitted out of that zone. So let's say you didn't want to transmit something like, say, pitch bend. You can go to where it says transmit switch PB and turn that off, and it won't send pitch bend from the YC, or it will send it. So you have some definite flexibility there with setting the instrument up as a MIDI controller or in that external keyboard setup. So pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways you can go with this instrument. Another thing I just want to point out is on the YC61 itself, in front of me, it gives you clues on how things are set up in that small screen. So I know at a glance right now that MST is on. That means that master keyboard control has been turned on. There's a zone control. It shows up right there, MST. Or if I go over to the first one here, send out that program change, see master keyboard's there. I can see right next to that lower manual, like I said before, EX, external control for the lower manual. Or if I go to the next sound item here, the analog lead pad, well, the classic mini sound it will come from the montage, but the analog pad is here on top. So it gives you that indication inside the actual screen on the YC61. Yes, very cool. So, hey, did you ask any questions? Well, that's the survey link. It is in the link, and we actually have changed that link, I think, to a much easier one. But ask a question before about anything, and I will try and answer it. I'm actually going to do that on this episode of just not. There weren't a lot of questions this week, but one of the questions I would like to talk about, I'll answer it in a second. I'm going to go through these real quick. So you have Qualtrics, right? YamahaSynth.com, of course. Go there. If you have any questions about any gear, you can go into the forum, post a question in the forum, or you can check out articles, lots of videos, lots of cool stuff at YamahaSynth.com. Make sure you go there. Soundmondo, 70,000 sounds or something. Free sounds for Reface, YC, CP, Montage, ModiX. It is a social sound sharing site. Make sure you go there, check it out if you have a Yamaha piece of gear, and check out some sounds for your instrument that is supported, of course, at Soundmondo at YamahaSynth.com. Idea scale. Do you have an idea? This is one thing that I'm going to bring up here right now. Because one of the people, in fact, I will say it right now. Here's one of the questions I got from Idea Scale. Why doesn't Montage have a step sequencer? You know, I don't know. That's a good question. But if you join Idea Scale and you put that in the Idea Scale community, our developers absolutely look at that and send these ideas off to the engineers that create our products, and maybe that's something that could be considered. It's a good suggestion. I agree with you. Right now, the way to do step sequencing in Montage is to use an external DAW. Fortunately, Montage does come with Cubase AI that does have step sequencing capabilities, or you can use another one, but currently it is not built in to the performance recorder like the pattern sequencer and so on. But it's a good idea. Join Idea Scale and let us know. Music production guide. There was a new one that just dropped a little while ago that was all about, I believe, MODX. OS 2.5 for MODX remote control. That's what it was about. So definitely go there. There's 10 years, I think, of music production guides that you can get your hands on if you join at that address. Look in the description. Last thing, SoundCloud. .com/YamahaSynth. Please like and subscribe. You're going to have reasons to do this if you like artists and musicians, because there's some really good ones that we have just interviewed. We had a great interview with Bro Paul Brown, currently the keyboardist for the Waterboys, but an artist in his own right who does a lot of great things, giving back. I think he's working a lot on Music Cares right now to help musicians that are out of work currently. Just a great person, great interview that we had with him. Super nice guy. Anyway, Bro Paul Brown. We did one with Nick Semrad. Sorry, I'm going to pronounce it right because I went over that in the podcast. Another great one. Look for more on Nick coming up on YamahaSynth.com. Coming soon. He's going to do some cool posting maybe. Check it out. And then we just did Dan Rouse, like I said at the beginning, the musical director for The Village People. That's going up tomorrow. It is a really good one. So definitely like and subscribe to our SoundCloud at Yamaha Synth. There I am. Hey. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of Tech Talk Live. I'm a little verklempt here because I had to switch everything around, but I hope you could get something out of this today on MIDI connectivity on the YC61. This is the last YC61 focused Tech Talk Live, but I believe I'll be in the same basic configuration because I think we're going to talk about Camelot and how that really cool app works, Mac or PC or iOS, iPad specifically. So you won't want to miss that if you're interested in a very cool piece of software for even enhancing even more MIDI control. So once again, this is Blake. Thank you so much for watching Tech Talk Live. We'll catch you later. Have a good one.